I've been drawing like since I can remember. Like I was always like even just doodling like in kindergarten, like every child does. But the first time that I like had a sketchbook, it was a little notebook that my mom gave me, and I was like maybe like 4th or 5th grade. And because I was obsessed with like the cartoons and the anime that I would watch, I would just draw all of me and my friends and like my cousins, and I would just draw all of us in it. I like used it as like a way to like express myself and like escape stuff, because I didn't have like a lot of friends when I was younger, and like when I did, they didn't like think it was cool. It's like my safe spot. Like I know that if I draw anything, write anything in like my sketchbook, or if I want to paint anything, like no one but me will like know the full story behind it. Like no one's gonna take my sketchbook from me and like see what's in there. Like I can always trust that whatever I put down, like I'm not gonna judge myself, and I'm not gonna make it into something that it's not. One year, you know, like after my parents got divorced, like we just kind of stopped doing like family trips. We'd stop going there, we'd stop seeing people. And for a long time, my whole like mom's side of the family was the only people that we talked to. And there was just like 3, 4, 5 years, even after, once we were able to still see my dad's family and like talk to them and see my cousins and all that, people just kind of wiped like certain parts of our childhood like clean. Like we weren't allowed to talk about them. They didn't happen. We wouldn't be allowed to mention them. There was just like a whole part of my life that I wasn't allowed to talk about, and that like we weren't allowed to acknowledge happened because there was like one bad person there who like messed it all up. So this whole thing is about like, you know, when you're like in a desert and they're like mirages, like is this real? Da, 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 da. That's why it's like repeating figures, and it's like me and my sister like multiple times just at different spots. A lot of this stuff, and this piece especially, is just about trying to piece stuff together and like remember things, not necessarily for the fact of like if they're the truth or not. Just try to remember if you know like who you are, where you were, what you're doing, like where you came from. I hate the word innocence because that sounds weird, but like everything that came with like my childhood and like growing up and like watching, like I've always been the way that I am about like I wanted to like know things, and I was always like inspired and like creative and wanted to touch everything and explore everywhere. But there was just like such a distinct there's such a distinct feeling around like all the old pictures of like me and like my sister and like the old houses we would be in, or like when we would see our family when we still talk to them. It's that like disconnection but also connection that brings me and little me together, and we're honestly just the same person. And the whole point of this is trying to be like, I'm still her and she's still me. I think art is supposed to just make you feel something. It doesn't always have to be happy, and I think some of the best art is art that comes from like really sad places, or just like really places where people have been like at their worst.